And this Youth Month, we want to focus not on the uprising itself, but on the up and rising young South Africans who are turning the tide against unemployment and making positive changes in their communities. Well, one of those youngsters is Musa Kalenga. Musa, you and I were joking off here about how we went to school together. Yes. But I wanted to take a look at this. Many of our peers were looking at where they want to work, what kind of employment they can find after their studies. You were looking at how you want to start jobs, and how you want to be an entrepreneur. Yes. Why did you have that focus?
Well, I think because that's the next level for us as young people, being able to take our countries and our economies to the next level of emancipation. I think our duty is to figure out ways of creating employment as opposed to just filling seats. For a long time, I've been passionate about young people. So my immediate kind of heartstring was to go out and find ways to be able to empower young people, offer opportunities in areas and industries which are often underserviced. I think in the general traditional ones of being doctors and lawyers and that kind of thing, there's a lot of kind of activity that allows young people to get developed. But in alternative industries, in media, in creative industries, and marketing, not so much. So I was quite passionate about doing that, and I think it's all our responsibilities to figure out how to create employment as opposed to filling seats.
Now, they say necessity is the mother of all invention. What I like about your particular life's journey is that you didn't have to go far in order to start business. You started right there in campus. You started with your peers, with the youngsters there in university. Tell us a bit about that journey.
Well, I think it's important that young people shouldn't try and overthink entrepreneurship. I think it's just a matter of looking around your immediate environment, trying to figure out where there are problems, and add value as close as you can. I think that's what it boils down to. Starting out from Wits, I think I did exactly that. I'd been fortunate to have been working quite a long time, so I realized I didn't want to have a job. So that I'd known for a long time. And when I thought to myself, what is that I can do? I had to find the balance between my creative side and my technical side in my own head. And that's when we started the first company, Monati Fellas. I literally got a bunch of friends around the table at campus, and that's where the company started. And from there, it grew from strength to strength. I think the big challenge at that particular point was being a small company in a creative industry. A lot of people didn't quite take you seriously. It was quite difficult to understand the value proposition. What is it that you do? When you tell people you sell ideas, they look at you and they kind of give you a bit of a skew look. So that was challenging in the beginning. So finding financing and that kind of thing, it was quite a challenging thing to explain to people. But once we got over the first 2 years, which are often the most difficult years, we found ourselves being in a very fortunate position to have a great 8 years of business, speaking to a lot of young people, servicing a lot of corporate South Africa, but also, last but not least, allowing for quite a windfall of young entrepreneurs to come through our doors, find their feet, figure something out, and go on and start something of their own, which I think is for me what was really important.
It's an inside joke amongst youngsters that those who don't know what to do with themselves either study marketing or IT, because you just don't know which career path to take. But those who actually do want to do marketing, what's the industry like at the moment? Is there still a gap for the small player, for the newcomer? How do people take you seriously when, like you said, you come across those who say selling ideas is just not feasible?
Sure. Look, I think on the whole, marketing as an industry is saturated. As you said, it's low-hanging fruit. If you can't be the big title, then you go and do marketing. So as a result, there's a lot of marketers out there, and as a result of that, the standards of marketing have gone down quite a bit, in my opinion. Where the opportunity is to find a particular niche and specialize in that space. What we did as Monati Fellas is we said we're going to focus on the youth market, and that's the market we're going to service. And we kind of blindly focused on that, and that was part of the reason why we were successful. A lot of companies that are kind of fly-by-nights that do everything and service everybody often find it quite difficult to gain traction, because in the marketing fraternity, if you're not a specialist in something, it's quite difficult for the industry to take you seriously. So for marketers, I think, yes, there are great opportunities. Neuromarketing is opening up, digital marketing is an area of specialization. So there's lots of areas that are starting to kind of rear their heads, where the challenge for young people is to actually look harder, to dig deeper, to investigate, to find out, and to try and see where the next big trends are going to be. Environmental marketing is also something that's going to be starting to become quite important. So I think the onus is on young people to be able to look a little bit more, to become a little bit more curious about the industry as a whole, to be able to find what they're passionate about.
And how would you advise young South Africans? Where does one begin? They're thinking to themselves, I'd like to start something, I'd like to make a change, but I feel so disadvantaged either because of my background, my social standing in life, or for whatever reason. How do you begin to advise them and say to them, this is possible, this is what change you can make, and not only in your life, but in the lives of the many others that you could potentially hire?
Yeah, look, I always speak about the principle of value and understanding what value is. I think if young people can come to terms with this concept around value. And value for me is simply being able to make something better than it was. And I made reference to when I started Munati Fellas, and I looked around and I thought, what am I going to do with myself? And I had to ask myself, where is the best place for me to add value, given where I was? At that point, I didn't necessarily have a degree. At that point, I didn't necessarily have experience. But I thought to myself, well, I'm young, so why don't I speak about things that I understand? And that's the value I added. So for young people to be able to try and find their place, they need to start understanding what value they add. And everybody has got some degree of value. It may not be the ultimate kind of degree or ultimate PhD, but you can add some value. And when you figure out what that value is, you need to figure out ways of commercializing it. Certain people have taken post boxes and started painting them in townships, and it beautifies the township. It's adding value to the community. Other people have started consulting and speaking and adding value to people's lives, and that's the principle of value. And when you add value, you can start to put a commercial amount of value. You can start charging for that value. But when you don't understand that fundamental principle of what am I worth and how can I turn that into money, it's quite difficult to get off the ground.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that insight and adding value, the key message there. That was Musa Kalenga.
News that moves. eNCA.com.